Knicks wrapped it up last night. Also, the Heat wrapped it up last night. So it looks like it's going to be Knicks and the Heat. In a lot of ways, I think the Knicks should be a little fortunate that it's the Heat, that is not the Bucks that we need to. I think, I love stats and I lean heavily on stats. Although the stats say Bucks is the best team in the East, but you still got to play the games, right? And also injury has a huge play a huge part. But aside from that, the Heat's just they always give the Bucks trouble. I think 3 years ago, I think it was the Bucks who eliminated the Heat 3 years ago in the bubble. So, I think this game is all about matchups. Sometimes, the stats may say one thing, but you actually got to play the games and you got to see how the teams actually match up to see if basically those stats make sense, right? And so it's going to be in the second round, the Knicks versus the Heat. I'm actually excited about that. You know, hopefully, I'm really hoping to get some time, to possibly even go to South Beach to watch one of those games. I'm not even sure if it's going to be even possible to do that. But, I'm really excited about it. I think most of the fan base is really excited about this. And just thinking about basically not just last night's game, but the whole series, you know, the Knicks are just built for the playoffs. I think they're specifically there's a couple of guys that are built for the playoffs that are on the Knicks. Obviously, Mitchell Robinson, you really see basically how important he is in the playoffs. And then you basically you go to Julius Randle. Julius Randle, I thought, I really felt like his game was not a playoff. He's not meant for the playoffs because he just takes way too many jump shots. And he struggles sometimes. I feel like he struggles finishing against bigs in the paint. However, yesterday, before he went down for the injury, man, he was bodying that little kid. Mobley. I can't even barely remember his name, but he was. I mean, he not only was he scaring that kid, but he was basically putting his shoulder into that kid's chest and going right at the rim, and Mobley just couldn't do anything about it. It's really interesting to see that. Every time I say something, have a criticism about Julius Randle, it feels like the next game he just like proves you wrong. So it's he played an amazing game before he went down. Hopefully, really hoping he's going to be back soon. It looked bad at first. He was in a lot of pain. You can tell he's extremely frustrated. But look, I mean, he's played a huge part in this team getting here to this point. Obviously the offense is different when he's on the court, right? Stylistically, he's different. There's less assists as well. When he's on the floor, the ball moves better when Obi's on the floor. But hey, look, I'll tell you one thing: it's all that matters is can you get the ball in the hole and can you do it efficiently? And can you do it more efficiently than the opponent can? That's really all that matters. And Julius basically throughout the regular season showed us, yes, he can do that, right? Because I think he shot 47% from the field, and averaged like 24 points a game, So he's definitely showed us he can do that, and he can do it. And so that's pretty much all that matters, right? And so hopefully he gets back, and he gets back healthy, and the Knicks, are able to progress and kind of get through. Even with that said, Julius going down. I mean, you see Obi. Obi comes right in, and it's like, and he's just like he's not scared, and he basically just steps right in, hits a big three, gets a couple of easy baskets. I mean, like 12 points in a quarter in the third quarter. He just doesn't play scared. Now, for me, I don't feel like Obi's. I'm not 100% sure his game is meant for the playoffs. It just doesn't feel that way. I think for your game to be meant for the playoffs, the different levels, right? You need to be able to. Obviously, he can shoot the three, and he's shown he's not afraid to even hit the three in the playoffs. He needs to have a mid-range game. But most importantly, the most important part, you got to be able to get to the basket. For me, that's the most important thing. If you can get to the basket, especially in the half court, like, in the playoffs in the half court, then that means I feel like, you're going to be okay in the playoffs because then you don't have to basically depend on that three-point shot, especially if the three-point shot isn't going for you. You can just get to the rim, and you can play aggressive. And so that's, why I'm still a huge Obi fan. I really love the way he plays, and but I just don't think his game. I don't know if his game is meant for the playoffs. But that said, he doesn't play scared, so it doesn't even matter, right? I mean, he's still producing, So as long as he's producing, hey, that's all that matters. I guess, that means his game is built for the playoffs. As long as you're not playing scared, as long as you can do what you do in the regular season in the playoffs and still do it pretty efficiently, then you're good. The other person whose game I know is definitely built for the playoffs is RJ Barrett. We knew RJ. We've always known RJ can get to the basket, but the problem is, can he finish at the basket, right? Finishing at the basket and finishing efficiently has always been an issue for this guy throughout his whole career. But I guess I think probably it is because it's a 7-game series and he can basically make adjustments and get comfortable and figure out where he's going to, and just kind of figure out the defender's tendencies and figure out how he's going to get buckets against those defenders. That could be it. He's definitely getting comfortable. He's definitely getting in the groove. And look, this kid has been a problem. He can get to the paint. Now he's finishing in the paint. I mean, his game is definitely built for the playoffs. And so he's really carried this team when Julius has struggled. I think there's been games where, I think game 4, I think it was game 4 that he was the only one who actually shot pretty efficiently. Maybe Jalen Brunson did too, but he's been really carrying this, helping carry this ball club since game 2. It's basically been him and Brunson for the most part on the offensive end. And of course, Josh Hart has given you, every other game, Josh Hart will give you huge productions in terms of points. He always gives you a lot of energy, gives you a lot of rebounds. His game is built for the playoffs because he's all about effort. He's about giving you those second chance points. He's about rebounding, and he's about playing defense, right? And the other starter whose game is also, I feel like, definitely built for the playoffs is Jalen Brunson, and he's proven it. He's proven it the last 2 years, right? I mean, he was a big integral part of the Mavs getting to the Western Conference Finals last year. And, again, everyone has talked this to death, but I'm just so surprised the Mavs let him go. And you guys can go back and look at the videos that I did on the analytics for Jalen Brunson as soon as the Knicks signed him. Go back and look at those analytics videos on him and also about Luka. I knew, you can just tell from there that the Mavs were making a huge mistake because he was an integral part of the offense, and the numbers and his stats really, kind of projected that point, right? So it pretty much delivered that point. So I was very surprised when the Mavs let him go, and that the Knicks were able to sign him for what they were able to sign him. I always thought it was a really good deal. I think a lot of Knicks fans did think it was a really good deal as well. And so he's really starting to deliver. He's really starting to show up, especially he shows up all the time in the playoffs. He showed up in the playoffs last year, and he's showing up in the playoffs this year, So that's just the way he is, and that's how he plays. And, his game is built for the playoffs. The other game is built for the playoffs. I think IQ has been playing a little tight, but he's starting to get more comfortable, right? He's starting to get comfortable. I was actually pretty shocked that, he struggled the first 3 games. I was very shocked he struggled the first 3 games. I did not see that becoming a problem for the Cavs. IQ was almost all the way back, right? And so it bodes well for the Knicks, right? And so that means basically going into this Heat's matchup, hopefully he's going to stay comfortable and he's going to be ready for that matchup now that they've got a series under their belt. It's really amazing. Again, RJ Barrett, man, I think he's been the biggest revelation during the series, especially the way he's played. And I did not think he was going to play well in this series. I really did not think. I thought it was going to be a problem with all the bigs and the lengths, because we've struggled. He struggled all season finishing against length in the paint. He's not scared to go against them. It seems like he still always goes against the bigs. He's done it throughout the regular season. He's done it, but he's figured it out in this series. It seems like at least he's figured it out again. who's able to figure it out against the Cavs. We're playing against Miami, different kind of defense, but there's not a lot of bigs. There's no rim protection, so he should be fine. He should be very comfortable against the Heat. So I don't know, man. I think everybody eats against the Heat. The next series. I think offensively, I think we show up. Like based on the stats where the Heat's ranked, the Heat's offense was so putrid. That PIE ranking that I had, they were basically, I think they were like 25th in league because their offense was so bad, And the Knicks, and I think that was the second half of the season after the All-Star break. The Knicks were ranked, I think, like 5th or 6th or something like that. So there's a huge gap between the Knicks and the Heat coming into the playoffs in terms of how both teams were playing and in terms of like their production and what they can do. Those PIE stats it's not fluky. It's really output. That's what your team can do, right? It compiles basically is a way of compiling all the performance stats that each team has. And then we get it all together. Basically I compile the stats, right, for each team, and you're able to compare it against all the other teams in the league, and then you can use it to rank it. And like I said, it does work because there's a correlation between that and the win percentage. So I've tested that. And the other thing too is like that PIE stat that I have, it just includes a defensive factor to it, whereas the regular PIE stat doesn't really include the defensive factor, because I'm including basically defensive field goal percentage. That's pretty much what I'm able to find a way to include defensive field goal percentage in those stats, and that's why it's a better predictor than the regular PIE stats, and it works. So that's why I use it, and that's why I think it's a good predictor of what teams are going to win the series, right? Because it tells you what each team can do. And what they're going to do in the series, so that's why I think, honestly, the Knicks, the stats suggest the Knicks are going to sweep the Heat. That's what the stats suggest. I don't think it's going to be close. Now, Jimmy Butler, the dude's he's a different player in the playoffs, so that kid, if that doesn't hold true, if these stats don't hold true and the Knicks don't make it out of the second round, then obviously it's I think it's clearly it's going to be because of Jimmy Butler. Right? He's going to show up. He's going to have to put up monster numbers like he's put up against the Bucks for the Heat to beat the Knicks. That's what's going to have to happen. That's just what's going to happen. Throughout the whole season, the offense have not been the issue with the Knicks. It's always been their defense. Every time they lock in on the defensive end, they're going to win the ball game. That's just what's going to happen. The Knicks can play any way you want to play it. Basically, with the starting lineup, they like to play slow. It's a very slow pace. And so that's why the Knicks have one of the slowest pace in the league. It's because the starting lineup likes playing a slow pace. And Tibbs' starting lineup, they tend to play his starting lineups usually play over 33 to 35 minutes a game. That's just what's going to happen, right? And so that's why we end up having one of the slow pace in the league. But telling you what, they can play however you want to play it. The Knicks can play slow because the starting lineup tends to play with a slower pace, but they can score at half court. That's the reason why they can play at a slow pace, because they can still score in a half-court set, So playing a slow pace doesn't matter for them. And when they inject Josh Hart into that starting lineup, it does help them pick up the pace a little bit. And so they're able to take advantages at certain spots, right? They're able to take advantage. When especially if Josh Hart gets the rebound, then, they can push the pace and they can get out on a break, usually when he gets the rebound. Or usually if they get a turnover or a steal, and Josh Hart is anywhere involved in that, he does a really good job pushing the pace and pushing the ball forward and passing the ball forward. Now with the second team, the second team is also anchored on the offensive end by R.J. Barrett. So R.J. Barrett we already see he comes out a little early in the first quarter. So by the second quarter, the coach normally has him back in there working with the second team, and because that's usually when the second team comes into play. And so with RJ Barrett, you can play half court with RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett can play fast pace. He can get out on the break. You also got IQ, who can, kind of push the pace a little bit. You also have, with that side, of course, you have Obi Toppin. He's like, dude's a gazelle, probably one of the fastest guys in the league. It's amazing how quickly he's able to get down the court. A lot of times yesterday, I didn't think we had a fast break, and then Josh Hart just passes the ball forward, and there go Obi right there standing in front of the rim. So it's amazing how quickly he gets out, he gets down the ball floor, and it really helps the Knicks get easy buckets. But the whole point is the Knicks can play however you want to play it, and so that's what makes them a really good team. And especially in the playoffs, they're just built for the playoffs. That's just what it is. And so I think according to what the stats suggest, I think this is going to be the same thing. Maybe the Heat get one game, but I think this is pretty much going to be a sweep. I think the Knicks get to the conference finals, and then we face off. We'll see who we face off. Right now, Boston is struggling against the Hawks because I think the series is now 3-2. And the Hawks, man, you can't count them out, especially because that kid Trey. Obviously, Knicks fans, we've seen what that kid can do. We saw what he did a couple of years to us. Especially when he's got his shot going. He's just dangerous, and the shot is not even the biggest thing. He doesn't shoot like a high percentage from three, especially given the fact that he kind of launches it from way out there. And I get why he does it. It's a way to really keep because if he hits a couple of those, it just screws up your whole defense, right? Then everybody starts to play scared. It gets you so off balance because he's shooting. The dude's like, he pulls up from the freaking parking lot, right? And if he's hitting it from the parking lot, it's like, what are you going to do? Like, you can't get up there and play up on him. And, there's too much space between where he's standing, where he's hitting those shots from in the basket. Nobody's going to want to play him play him up close that far out, right? And so, so that's one thing about him. But the most important thing about Trey is dude is just he's just cerebral, right? He's a chef in the kitchen. He's gonna carve. He carves teams up. He carved up the Knicks, especially because we didn't have Mitch, during that playoff run. Throughout that playoff run, he carved up every team that he went up against. And so, he's been struggling a little bit this season, and it seems like they're kind of getting their footing, the Hawks. But, I think the biggest problem is with the Hawks is it's just defense. I just don't think they're a very good defensive team, and they need to find a coach that can actually settle them down and get them, get a good defensive scheme for them and have everyone just buy in, right? If they can do that, I think, they'll be better off. That's really their problem is really just defense. But we'll see what happens there. But I still think Boston wins that series because Boston is, I think they're ranked third in the analysis that we did in terms of the whole league. And so I think they basically, they should be able to dispatch the Hawks. So it clearly looks like it's going to take, I think, it's 3-2 now. So game 6 is coming up. So we'll see what Boston does. Like I said, I still think Boston wins. And, after they're done with that series, the winner goes on to meet the Sixers. Now the Sixers, they basically swept they swept the Nets. It wasn't even close. They sent them home in 4 games. It was really an easy series for the Sixers. They look dangerous. They look really dangerous, and they look good. The Sixers is another team. They're really built for playoffs, I think, especially because of Embiid. Embiid can basically, he can carve you up on a half-court offense. But the only thing with Embiid, he likes to face up and play away from the basket and work from outside in. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes, what the Knicks uh, how the Knicks handles Embiid when the time comes. And of course, the other person is James Harden. James Harden, obviously, he's a very cerebral player as well, but he struggles in the playoffs. So we'll see, what the Knicks are going to cook up for the Sixers if the Knicks make it that far. But I think the Knicks make it to the Eastern Conference Finals because, like I said, if you look at those PIE stats, it's like it feels like the sea just parted for the New York Knicks. They met Cleveland in the first round. Cleveland is a very good team. Their offensive efficiency, they're like basically the top in the league. Defensive efficiency, they're the top in the league. Cleveland is a very good team. Any other team, Cleveland meets any other team, it goes 7 games at least, and they probably win the series. Against any other team, not any team in the league, but I would say not any team like in the East, but I would say most teams in the East, aside from, honestly, they would have beaten the Bucks because Giannis was hurt. They would have beat the Heat. They would have definitely beat the Heat. So that, at least that's my opinion. I think they would have beat the Heat because their defense is good enough and their offensive efficiency is just good enough to basically to really put, carve up the Heat, And then they have, so I think they would have been fine versus the Heat. So it's just, they're a very good team. It's just, I guess the point I'm trying to make, it's all about matchups, right? It's all about who you face. Sometimes the stats can say one thing, but then you kind of get matched up against the worst possible team, Now the PIE stat basically showed that like Cleveland, because I think they were like something like 10th or 11th, right? So they were going to struggle against the Knicks. However, I think a lot of times, like I said, I feel like it's about match, and the Knicks were just worst possible matchup for Cleveland, just like the Heats were the worst possible matchup for the Bucks, because these are the teams that the Cavs, they struggle against the Knicks, and the Heats, they always the Bucks always struggle against the Heat, especially in the playoffs. Excuse me. So that's pretty much, I think it's a lot of times about that, but the Seas seem to have parted for the Knicks because we faced the best possible matchup in the first round. About to face the Heat in the second round. That's a really good matchup for the Knicks, the Heat. Basically, like I said, I think they're ranked 25th. The Knicks are ranked like 5th or something like that with that PIE stat with the defensive factor. So, I mean, I just really feel like this is going to be an easy ride for the Knicks to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think they take care of the Heat. Like the stats suggest, the stats in the first round suggested it was not going to go six games against the Cavs because of basically that stat that the PIE stat that I had. Only went 5 games. This one is even worse. These stats are suggesting the Miami Heat is going to be 4-0. It's not even going to be close. That's what this suggests. But Giannis has been injured, and the Bucks are just always out of sync. And I think that's because they always deal with so many injuries all the time. They're just always out of sync. They don't play enough games together in the regular season, so it's just always a problem for them, So I think that could be also part of it, why they got dispatched. But, the Heat was able to dispatch the best team in the league, and they did it in 5 games, So, from that standpoint, those PIE stats didn't mean anything, and because the Heat was able to, just run right through the Bucks. But, I don't think it happens. I think they come down to earth against the Knicks, and not just down to earth. The Knicks are going to put them in the basement. That's what it feels like. It's not even just about the stats. Even if you look at the way we've played, how we've matched up in the regular season, the Knicks are just way too big for them. It's not like the Heat. The Heat doesn't have a lot of size, and so it's not even like they're basically, and they're not like a fast break team. Can play fast. can beat Mitchell Robinson down on a fast break. But I don't think the Heat, they're not one of the teams that play with a high pace. I think they're probably one of the slowest paced teams in the league as well. And so that's why I think the Knicks they're going to sweep the Heat. It's not going to be close because their offense has really struggled against even the Knicks. Although they're playing better in this playoffs against the Bucks, but the Knicks are just a different team. If the Knicks are playing defense, you're not going to be scoring a lot of points. And so this is just this road to the finals it feels like it was just it was just paved in gold and somebody handed the Knicks a silver spoon. And that's what it just feels like. And so Knicks are going to get it might be the stat suggests it's going to be the Celtics, and unfortunately for the Sixers, they struggle against the Celtics. The Celtics just have their number in the playoffs, and I think the Celtics eliminated the Sixers last year. I think they did, and so I think it's going to be the same thing this year. I think they're going to end up eliminating the Sixers again, and it's going to be the Knicks and the Celtics in the conference finals. I think the Knicks win that series against the Celtics because it's just the way it's been laid out for the Knicks. They're just, they're running into, it's a matchup heaven for the Knicks. They're matching up against the teams that they're clearly better than. We're better than them because we're more physical than they are, right? So where it counts, we're better in those situations. Offensive efficiency, the Knicks are a pretty good team. They're one of the top teams in offensive efficiency. Like I said, they can play fast or they can play slow, right? So even if they met the Celtics in the conference finals, I think they'll be basically, they're going to definitely be stronger than the Celtics. They're going to out-rebound the Celtics. So that's where, deep rebounding is a huge factor in your ability to win ball games. Obviously, the two more important factors are, like I said, how efficient are you on the offensive end? Lower, basically, can you make them less efficient than you are? So if you're shooting 47%, can you hold the opponent to like 46% shooting? Now, that's not always going to mean that's not always going to work. But if you have that, it drastically improves your odds of winning. Now, the one thing that throws a monkey wrench in that is the rebounding. Now, the Celtics can basically be slightly more efficient than the Knicks, and the Knicks can still win the series because the Knicks are a very good rebounding team, especially on the it's very difficult to keep them off the offensive glass, especially Mitchell Robinson, right? Even with Josh Hart, it's very difficult to keep them off the glass as well. And so it's and the coach is playing them perfectly. He just kind of goes with when Mitch gets really tired and he's struggling, he puts in Hartenstein. And Hartenstein, look, it's, boy, was I wrong about this dude. He was really struggling first half of the season. His play was putrid, Offense, I wasn't it wasn't like I was unhappy with him on the offensive end. It was just really the defense. And he struggled rebounding the ball. But then we found out he was injured, That's the thing with a lot of these players in this league. A lot of people, they just don't make excuses and and it's just and you think they suck. And then all of a sudden they're playing all world basketball. And you're like, where the heck did this come from? And then you find out later, he was, he played like trash because he was injured the whole time. But with the Knicks, they can get it, right? They can get it however, they can get the points however they need to get it, right? It's so many different ways. They can get a fast pace on a half court, and even if they miss shots, the second chance points are a factor for them. And so, with that said, even with the Celtics, when we match up against them, like I was saying, the Celtics can basically shoot slightly, can be slightly more efficient than we are, and we can still win the ball game because we're that much of a dominant force on the glass. And so the only way for the Celtics to be able to win this series, especially if the efficiencies are very close, they would have to find a way to make sure they keep us off the offensive glass. Them being slightly more efficient than us is not necessarily going to mean they win the ball game. They got to keep Mitchell Robinson off the offensive glass. So that's why the chances of the Knicks actually even getting to the finals is like, it's really good. It's just like the matchup is just really works in your favor. And it's like, I'm just not seeing who's going to stop them because, like I said, it's just the matchups. It's just kind of like everything is laid out for them. So they're going to end up meeting everyone that they're clearly better than in terms of like, they have advantages over. They still got to play the game, right? All this stuff I'm talking, all this stuff I'm saying, it could be all trash, 3 weeks from now, right? If the Knicks basically lose against the Heat. I just don't think that's the case. The statistics suggest otherwise. And even just, not even the stats, the eye test, you can just look at both teams. Like I said, again, the Knicks are bigger than the Heat, more physical than the Heat. We can play faster than the Heat. We're more efficient on the half court than the Heat. I mean, if we have all that over them, I just don't see them winning that series. The Knicks are going to win that series. And then, like I said, if the Knicks meet the Celtics are a much better ball club than the Heat, obviously. However, like I said, I think, we just match up really well against them. The Knicks normally, our players normally struggle against, the speedy guards, right? Cleveland was the team where, okay, we were going to have trouble with, the guards. I thought we were going to have trouble with the guards, but still find a way to win ball games because it's just those two guards and nothing else, really. And I thought we just had the advantages that at every other position. But that's, those two guards are gone, The Heat, there's no guards, there's no speedy guards that's going to break us off, break our defense down and basically and compromise the paint. There's nobody there who's going to do that. Tyler Hero's hurt, and so there goes that. And then even against the Celtics, same thing. There's nobody on the Celtics that's going to really break down the defense. The only person is possibly Malcolm Brogdon. And of course, Jason Tatum also. But in terms of guard play, the guards that can do that, there's not both teams don't have speedy guards to do that, right? To really compromise our defense by breaking us down and getting into the paint. There's nobody for either team that can do that. And then so it's going to be a really tough sledding for both teams when the Knicks meet them. Neither of them are going to shoot I don't think either of them are going to shoot very high percentages versus the Knicks. And, I think the Knicks win. The probabilities suggest the Knicks win basically both series. Well, the stats suggest the Celtics should beat the Knicks, but the Celtics and the Knicks are not that far apart, when you look at those PIE stats with the defense factor, especially for the second half of the season. They're still pretty close. And so, so the Knicks definitely win that out, So, but look, that's pretty much what I got, Anyone, if you like the video, please make sure you hit the thumbs up, hit the like button. Feel free to basically comment below. Let me know what you think. I'll be more than happy to respond to your comments. Thank you guys for tuning in. Have a good day. And that's what I got. So how do I close this out?